if you're a music teacher and you teach a blind or partially sighted student, or you're that student and you want to give tips for your music teacher, in this video I'm going to be going through 4 tips to be considering when you teach, as I said, a blind or partially sighted musician. Before we get started, I just want to introduce myself. Hi, I'm Leah. I'm a blind pianist, guitarist and ukuleleist. I'm also a music producer. And this channel is about all things to do with music and audio production. So if you want to learn more about how I make music as a blind person, please subscribe to the channel and press the notification bell. So yeah, as I said in the intro, I've got 4 tips here which will be useful if you're maybe a blind student and you're learning music and you want to give these tips to your teacher, or if you're a teacher yourself and you want to kind of improve the teaching and help your student learn more. This would be especially helpful for sort of new learners, but it would also be helpful for more experienced players as well. So tip 1 might seem obvious, but it is actually to just ask. Any student you will have will be able to advocate their needs to you and tell you sort of what you can do to help them. But it does certainly help if you ask and you go into it without many assumptions, and you might have an idea, especially for sort of younger students, that their parents might have kind of told you a bit about their vision and what they need and what past teachers might have done. But it's still worth talking to the student. You'll be surprised by how even a very, very young child still knows what they need. And sometimes just asking can sort of trigger that conversation, and as a pair you might even come up with some new ways that might make it even easier for learning music. Going along with that, tip 2 is to be open-minded. Again, kind of obvious, but different students will learn in different ways, obviously. If you're a music teacher, you really should know that, but you'll be surprised by the amount of teachers who don't. And so there will be different approaches to doing things. So for example, I know a lot of teachers are very anti-non-sheet music learning, as in are very opposed to the idea of not learning with sheet music. So, for instance, they would probably suggest that the student learns Braille music, regardless of the circumstances. For me, I don't use sheet music. I have an idea kind of how it works, but I don't really use it at all. And that's because I don't need to. I play a little bit of classical music, but not so much. I mostly kind of play sort of like pop and rock music, mostly piano accompaniment. And for accompaniment, you just, reading sheet music can help. Lead sheets might be useful as well, but generally it can be just as easy to learn in other ways, like playing by ear. That's not to say that you can't learn with sheet music, it's just that's just an example. Different students, some students might want you to kind of go through each note individually. You might want to well, obviously it depends as well on the sort of experience of the student as well. So yeah, those are kind of just very general tips, but so tip 3 is actually kind of a little bit similar actually. It's just to consider different approaches. So we talked about sheet music. Yeah, you can use large print sheet music, Braille sheet music, even just having it lit up on a screen like an iPad might help. I know for me, I can see things better when they're illuminated on a screen opposed to a bit of paper. Or you might have, on paper, but with a iPad screen underneath, so it's kind of there's light shining through. They might use a magnifier. Bear in mind, a lot of VI students won't be able to read and play at the same time. It's just kind of, a thing, because obviously Braille, you're going to need fingers, and even for large print, you're quite often going to be trying to sit quite close to it, and so it's very difficult to do that and play piano or any instrument at the same time. I should say obviously this goes for all instruments, not just piano. But in terms of other things as well, not just sheet music, obviously you've got things about how you need to kind of consider, for most of all, just general life things. So for example, not just saying, oh, the toilet's over there, or if you want to drink, the sink's over there. You need to actually describe those things, but also like when you're teaching and trying to demonstrate something, obviously trying to avoid sort of pointing to notes and actually referring to things by name, which again, like I said, all of these will seem quite obvious, but you'll be surprised by how often they don't happen. And also, you might want to think about changing your language slightly in terms of So for example, one thing my music teacher does is that she actually refers to the black notes as the raised notes, because obviously to somebody who's totally blind, the fact that these notes are white and these notes are black actually means very, very little. So especially for a new learner or a very young child or somebody who's never had sight before, that for example might make more sense to describe them as the raised notes and the lower notes, which obviously lower note might get confusing between lower as in pitch or lower as in like keyboard position, but obviously we wouldn't want to call them flat notes really, but you could call them the, like, I think my teacher says normal notes and raised notes, so I think that's one way you can do it. That's not to say though, again obviously like we're saying about considering different things and asking your student, that's not to say that every student needs to have it referred to as the raised notes. I refer to them as black notes because I have enough sight to see that they're black, and that's also just what, I do think it's important to introduce the concept of them being white and black, because obviously when they go and maybe have other teachers in the future, or when they talk to their friends about piano, or they look up tutorials online or whatever, obviously the world refers to them as black and white notes, so you do need to make sure that they understand that those notes are white and those notes are black, but if it helps them to hear them as raised or lower, then that might help. The fourth tip is just to remember that things will change. Many sight conditions are degenerative, so a person's sight might get worse over time. It might even get better over time, you don't know. And also different days can be quite different, not only in terms of like medically, like some people have their vision change quite dramatically from day to day, but also if it's particularly sunny and maybe you don't have a blind, that's a tip as well. If you are in your own space, if you have your own studio or whatever, and your students come to you, definitely having a blind might help. Again, obviously it depends on the student. For me, for example, I'm quite light sensitive, so bright sunlight can hurt my eyes quite a lot, and I think that's the case for a lot of young people. So yeah, like sight can change from day to day. So one thing that works on one day might not work the next day. One day they might be able to see, what a pianist is doing in a YouTube video. Some days they might not. Some days they might be able to read the large print sheet music. Some days they won't. That's something to bear in mind as well. Okay, so they were the sort of main tips that I had, other than obviously the one that came up with a minute ago about having blinds or whatever. But yeah, so if you are a blind student and have tips yourself, please do put them in the comments. I'd love to hear them. You never know, they might even make my life easier. And if you're a teacher and you teach blind students, again, put them in the comments, it might help somebody else. Do go and have a look in the comments to see if there's any other tips that people have come up with. Obviously, in theory, music really should be the most accessible subject there is to teach, but obviously in reality, there's so many parts of it that are incredibly visual that it can make it more challenging. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye!